Alrighty, so we're gonna do video number 2 here, and we're gonna be covering Canada Goose stock. So, Canada Goose Holdings Incorporated, and as much as my head's in the sand, I was like, "What the hell is this Canada Goose Holdings?" So, looking at this a little bit more, it's a clothing manufacturer, and it's been based since 1957. So it's a pretty old company. Market cap at 2.37 billion. Took a look at their website. It looks pretty clear, you know. It's clothing manufacturing. I mean, I'm not sure what kind of edge this has on any other particular clothing brand, but yeah, we know what this is. We know the general market cap. Let's look at the chart and see what we can say here. In terms of just like macroeconomic global trends, I mean, I wouldn't suspect that this is going to have a huge a huge reason that it should shoot up. Sorry to take such a pause here. It's just the hell is going on here? So this company's been open since 1957. Was founded, but it's the data's only from April 2017. So I'm not sure if which one we have here. Let's do the TSX because yeah, that's what we're on, the TSX. So I imagine this is the one that we're thinking of. Like, that's just a crazy wick right here, but I guess this is from that pandemic. I mean, this was already in a correction cycle, and I don't really like some of this stuff here, but maybe that's just a fluke that it actually broke, let's say, this prior all-time low, and it did get supported here pretty good, so I guess that's a positive if we're trying to find some positives about this. It's just one little rounding hump here, so I guess the future of this is yet to be determined, but let's just see what we can say here before I just mammer away. So when we're drawing trend lines, people have the option whether they want to use the wicks or right where they closed. So when we're doing this, as of right now, maybe we're going to do it where it closes, but currently, yeah, the price is up here, so that's what we could use maybe as like a general support. I don't know how much you'd want to basically be basing any of that off of. I mean, with this, we could basically say we had a full retracement, and that's not a good sign ever. And I don't want to just seem negative with this right away, but I don't like it seeing break that level by any means. I just really don't. What we would have to admit is that we're downwardly trending here, hey? So with this stock, we're trending down, so we could say that this has created somewhat of a ceiling, right? So we reached this high, and now every time we reach up here, people are just selling it, right? And that's what these wicks are saying, that anytime the prices goes up here, it's being sold, it's sold, it's sold, it's sold, and the buyers here, they were stepping in here, but now they didn't step in again, so they lost that battle. They've stepped in here. It looks like when they got retested, they didn't come in and buy again. It's sold. So right now we basically have this. This is the line in the sand right now currently that the buyers are saying, hey, we're not letting it right here. We're showing some strength of buying. So we bought right here, and I wouldn't want to see this be broken right there. So as of right now, I would probably look at this and say, okay, we have a little bit of support forming from this prior price action back in 2017 here. We broke below it, but hopefully this was not just going to be a downward continuing trend like so. So I definitely look at this price of 25.73 and just like, I would not want to see this stock go much lower than that. I'd be pretty fearful for it, but also we can see these little wicks here. And to just draw on the optimist potential here, maybe this is forming, let's say, a cup, right? But the one thing that I don't like seeing is that, it's just in all honesty, I don't like seeing it actually break the price right there and drop into $18 when previously it was only 20, right? So to see it bust into that range right there, I'm not really liking that. At the same point, it did get bought up, right? So it got bought up pretty strong here. So it's just making me a little bit fearful. So it depends. Like, I imagine you're already involved with this, right? So now at the point that we're in right now, is it time to really sell off? Like, I mean, probably not right now. Like, since we have a pretty good line of support right here, so I would be definitely looking at this range, and this would be like my last little support before I gave up on this for a little bit. But when I'm going through these charts, I never take my word for bait. I'm always taking it with a pinch of salt. You could also look at this as a potential trading opportunity here too for a short-term trade. I mean, this could easily see a bounce up, let's say, into these levels. I mean, that would just be what you should expect. And then it's going to have to challenge this downward trend line, right? And we're going to see if the buyers can step up and push this upward and start actually, regaining this and potentially moving back up, forming this market cycle right here and actually getting into new forms of prosperity. So that could be a potential for this company, as it's been a long-standing company. Now we just have to, I like to just talk about global macroeconomic trends involved with investing, because I'm more of a long-term investor and I don't do too many trades day to day or week to week. For me, it's just that's just not my style. So for right here, I'd expect that we're going to see price action form in here, and then we're going to have a choice, and it's either going to break to the upside or to the downside. And really, it's just a matter of percentages here. And you could say that this is somewhat forming a descending triangle, and these typically break down more often than not, but it's like 53 to 49% or something. So it's not like it's a like a really skewed statistic, but here I definitely would want to see I wouldn't want to see it go too much lower than these prices. Maybe if you were going to be a little bit more lenient, maybe you want to put a stop loss at 24.83. I don't know. It's tough to really give recommendations when it's at this phase of it, right? I mean, so this is a long company, but it doesn't have any information, right? It doesn't have any data on the TSX to be basing, like, it's nice when you see these patterns and they're already like bigger, there's already more data, and then you can assume that, hey, this is actually just a look at gold. Like, when you see this pattern and then you see this downturn like this and you have this previous history, you can be a lot more positive about its future. Now when you just have data from here, it's like, shit, what's this gonna do, right? Because it's never a certainty that that's what's gonna happen. And I guess we're just gonna pull back Goose here, because I mean, at least this one here, I mean, this one isn't such a biotech stock, and that's what I kind of realized, that the Sona, the same idea. There's no history with it. I mean, yeah, look at these astronomical gains, but there's a lot of risk here, man, and this is where a lot of people lose their money. And when you're investing in these, you just got to realize that it's almost gambling, right? You're definitely gambling here. If you entered in here, you're gambling, bro, because I just looked at some more biotech stocks that were associated with this because I was interested. And I mean, for me, like, these are not the fucking shit that you want to get involved with. I mean, yes, it had a huge pump here, but guess what? I mean, it's still just following this downward trend. Like so, right? And yeah, you should have expected it to come and challenge that, and then it's just going to fall back over here. And when you look in even closer, you can see some of these stocks are even splitting just to like kind of cover their losses. This one isn't per se, but look it's up 22%. But these ones go up and down like crazy, right? So you can see a huge gain in one just to get the other one down, right? So when I'm seeing like that kind of big rollover, like, granted, this is a biotech stock, and this is what you should be afraid of. These going up and then actually not coming back down, right? Never actually coming back up, and that's the risk when we're investing in assets that have no history, right? They have no history, so we have no idea. So right now, like, before it was trending here, we had a break out of this trend, you could say, somewhat, but I mean, realistically, you just draw the new trend line right there. So in some sense, like, this seems to be a pretty, you'd look at that and be like, oh, this is breaking out of the trend line. This is a good asset to get into. Is it? It's going down, like, through its whole history. You don't want to get into these downward trending stocks. Like, this is crazy, man. So the first thing that you want to do is, and look at right here, it had a stock split. So when you look at this and you look at this, it split its stock, and that shows a huge weakness. So it split its stock, basically printed money, did quantitative easing within its own stock, and printed it. So this one, I would say, Lattice Biologics, it's a piece of shit. It's just a pump and dump right here. It's pump and dump. So you don't want to see this huge hype cycle and then fizzle out and then just never, just die off, right? So when you're looking at some of these new charts and new assets, that's the real danger of them. I mean, you're more or less gambling a little bit with these biotech stocks. And I mean, not to say that you can't sniff out like a good trend right here. Like, this could have been a good investment if you got in at the right time and you applied the right fundamentals. And yeah, there's some reason, but there's a lot of these biotech stocks, and this was another one here that at least when you're looking at something like this, like, at least you can say, hey man, what do we have here? We have at least a fucking positive trend, right? And I'm swearing lots right now, so I don't know why, but don't get involved with anything that's going down. Like, what is the point? I mean, it just, I don't know if I have any more charts to look at here, but why get involved with something heading down like that? Because we want to get into things that are going to give us at least a positive return, right? So a very good thing is just, at least if you're going to play around with biotech stocks and basically gamble, you want to at least have something that's positively trending, that might have a positive trend, form a cup, go through the market contraction, expansion, and continue back on. So at least with something like this, I mean, it's positively uptrending, and it's not just heading straight down and has a wick because it split its stock shares. And I mean, so just to go off of that again, but like looking at Sona now again, it's at $2 here. So that's just why it appeals, because you see such astronomical gains, right? But when we look at risk management, and I mean, we get so much FOMO here, and this is where you can make $1 million and lose it the next day, right? I mean, so that's where there's a lot of danger right there. And if you want to play with a small portion of your money with these more risky assets, like, that's up to you to decide, but you can't kid yourself and think that it's not gambling. And I just wanted to go towards someone that kind of scolds me a little bit, and yeah, just to give you a little bit of idea.
Easy index fund, which is what, 8 to 10% a year? After taxes, virtual.
So just to give you a little update here, I mean, this is just some famous people, what they say, day trading people are incredibly lucky. 1% of incredible lucky traders only win. I mean, so it's fair to say it's mostly like gambling. That's what the truth is.
Most of the research results will show that a staggering 70-90% of traders lose money. These kinds of statistics are almost equivalent to the ones that measure the number of people who lose money when gambling. So is it fair to say that day trading is like gambling? And this is why this one is last. Is it fair to say that? And yes, it is. Okay? It's fair to say that because most of you are that. You just don't want to admit it. The things you do, the actions that you do, and remember, I'm not just talking about not taking a stop loss or letting a loser grow a little bigger than it should. I'm not just talking about that. I'm talking about your preparation, how you enter this business with this get-rich mentality, how you enter this business overhyped, undercapitalized, and with expectations that grossly exceed your experience level. All of it makes you a gambler. It's all of those things. It's not just the simple thing. All of you guys right now are thinking, oh, well, if I don't take my stop loss, I'm a gambler. No, it's everything else as well. Okay, it's the seriousness in which you approach this business with. Okay, it's all of those things. And these people, as much as you read that and go, F you, I can't, yeah, that's not true. You are those people. You are. Okay? So I have no problem with people saying these things about the trading business because they're right. For most traders, they are right. Okay? They're correct. So how could you be upset about it? Right? How could you be upset about it? So what's the real deal then? Right? Well, this is the real deal. We have a lot of traders that ultimately become technically proficient. but they're not profitable. So technically proficient traders are a dime a dozen, but truly profitable traders are few and far between. Why? Terrible money management. Guys, reading a chart. My daughter turned 7 today. She can read a chart. Red and green are pretty easy to figure out. Okay? Bottoming tails, pullbacks, breakouts, 3-bar plays, climactics, they're actually pretty stinking easy to figure out. What isn't? Your mentality, your personality, your emotions, your lack of discipline, your terrible money management. But reading a chart, if I put up, and I'm not going to do it today, I was going to, but...
So I think the point that I'm trying to make is made here. I mean, live traders, this guy's name's Jared too. I mean, this is actually his job, right? He does a lot of day trading, swing trading. This isn't my profession. This is something that I'm aware of my inexperience within this, but the more that you can learn about something, that's what's going to give you experience, and that's why I decided to do this, because I know that I'm ahead of a lot of these people. At least I'm at least aware of my insufficiencies, and other people are just in denial. So the number one thing when we're trading to be profitable is always risk management. So that's what you have to just be aware of. I mean, when you're trading, it's all emotion. And just to pull up that chart again, you can see I can't even frickin' type anymore, so that's just wonderful as well. But looking at this, I mean, it's all emotion, right? So you have to realize that this is your emotion, right? And this is the real challenge, is that you have to manage your own emotion. And that's a very much easier said than done. So when he's saying not sticking to your stop loss, I mean, you get these feelings here, and then you don't put the stop loss in, and then all of a sudden it goes down, and then you let it run, and you're like, oh, it's just coming back up like one of these things, and then you end up losing a bunch of money that you should have had secured. And then it's just the amount of experience that you have and your expectations. So when we start investing in things and we have no idea what's going on, sometimes our expectations exceed our experience level. And for me, I started investing probably in like hardcore, probably not hardcore, but I've had swings of off and on, but 2017, I mean, they usually say it takes about 3 years to be at least a little bit more situated with looking at a chart, with looking at trading. So you have to be honest with yourself and say that, hey, it's going to be, there's going to be a lot of learning that has to happen here. And when this guy would always talk with the trading, you should actually, let's say that you had, I mean, this won't be applicable to like the current setting, but let's say you had $100 of savings, you should only make trades with, $1 of that. You should make trades with a very minimal part of your actual wealth, so that when you lose stuff at the beginning, you're not losing all your wealth, because it takes years, if not decades, to accumulate wealth. And the most important thing is managing that risk of losing it. So you always have to manage the loss. That's the most important. And most of the time when we get in and we're inexperienced, we're only thinking about the astronomical gains. And we don't have the experience or education to actually be, we don't deserve it. And if you risk it, some people will get it, but most people will lose it back because they have poor money management. And you got to look at this like a business, and that's just what it's all about: managing your emotions and money management. That's what it all is, and that's what everyone has the worst. Because I was watching a video on YouTube last night on Phil Hellmuth, and it was on Value Entertainment, and he was talking about his book Positivity, and basically he was saying that he was using the same idea with poker, and to be a good poker player, it's all about managing your emotion, because people go on tilt and they get pissed off and they're upset about a bad loss, and then they go on tilt and then they lose so much of their money. So it's just about, it's not necessarily playing the numbers as much as playing the emotion of people. And when you realize that charts is just emotion too, you gotta look at this in terms of human emotion, and that's how you can actually be a great trader, because you understand how people actually interact, right? So looking at that, I mean, just to go through that again, just because that you gotta have some idea where the hell you are. So looking at this, I mean, it's tough to say with the little bit of data that we have. Like, this could just be starting to form a cup here, but I don't like that fucking wick down here. I don't like it at all, because you can see some of these other ones that that just kind of end up rolling over and dying. I mean, it's tough to say. So right now I'd be really looking at, let's say, a line in the sand somewhere around here, right there. Maybe this last low right there, the last wick on the monthly time frame. And I mean, this could possibly be a pretty good long-term investment here if it's well established over a long time. We might just be seeing like some type of drawn-out market cycle, and then we could see this come back up. That is, if it's truly successful, we should see some type of price action like that. So it's tough to, if you bought up here, what are you going to do? Are you going to really sell for this? I mean, it's going to be a tough place to be at, especially since we probably should see action up to this line here at least. But yeah, that's always depending on where you got in on these, how long you plan on holding. Do you have personal attachments to this as well? It's tough, but for me, like, this is not, well, you could have said, like, there was some potential to get in on the bounce here. That could be a case as well. And there could be, like, there's always opportunity to trade on anything. If it's going down, you can trade it if you're, but if you're looking at investing, you always want to see a positive trend upward, because why would you invest in something that's negatively trending? It doesn't make any sense. So I don't like this either, just to see it fizzle all the way down like this, just negative the whole way. But also, when we're at the bottom here, we have the most potential for uprise too. So that's just a thing. I mean, but you don't really like seeing a trend that way for this long. For me, I'd want to see some type of bottom established here before I personally would be throwing money at this. Like, I'd want to see it, form some type of bottom. I'd want to see some price action actually confirming that, hey, we're not falling below this point, right? Like, I mean, I want to see, like, some bounces here so that it's like, hey, we're not going down further than this, and we could see it just slowly start accumulating back up here. But for me, with this one, that's what I'd be looking at. I mean, I wouldn't want to see it break below these prices here. And just considering, like, how bad is this economic downturn going to be, right? In the clothing industries during a pandemic are not essential, right? We don't need new clothes, really. And when people have less money, and the real scary thing is that we won't feel the economic effects of some of this stuff for a year or two. We won't see the price of inflation. So these companies could be in a world of hurt when they're not selling as much new clothing because people on average have less money. And whether or not we all go back to work next week, next month, fuck next year, the quantitative easing or the printing of the money is only going to guarantee inflation of the prices. And these companies, if they're selling clothing that most of us are not going to have extra money for, there could be some reason to be scared about this. In my mind, this isn't a company that I would be like foaming at the mouth thinking about all the money that's going to be flowing into Canada Goose Holdings for clothing. At the same sense, we might just have a big downturn since the climate here. We might have a little bit of a extended bear market, and then eventually this thing might go back up. So if you're thinking about holding this for, decades, this could just kind of resurge, but you never know. Like, for me, I'm not putting money into this at this point in time. Just because of, all those different things that we said there. But I'd want to see some action break above this downward trend line, and you can do it at any different time frame, right? But it's definitely trending down. We have that touch here. I don't like that shit at all, man. Hopefully we can stay above here, and eventually we're going to have price action bounce between here, and it's going to decide. It's going to decide if we're going to go up or going to go down. So there's always, when I look at charts, you're going to see that from me, but there's some positives here and there's some negatives. I mean, the negatives is that we're already rounding here with this little surge, so I just suspect it to roll over again. And then if that's the case, I don't want to see it challenge that, and I'd really like to see the buyer step in here and say, hey, we don't want to see this shit go any lower. But anyway, this is going to be number 2. I'm going to head on to the next one. Maybe I'll just continue it on. Or maybe I'll just maybe I'll just I'm thinking the Bombardier and the Canada stock. So this might be not the right one, but I'm just always assuming it's the Canadian one since I know you're from Canada. But yeah, we'll pick up this one next next video here. So I'm just gonna call this one, and yeah, hopefully it was good, and we'll continue on.